All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, guys. I have not posted on this account in a very long time, but as promised, I have you covered all season. I want this page to dive into very specific Rocket content. So if you enjoy this video, you want Rockets content every single day, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button. We are getting closer and closer to 1,000 subs. The Houston Rockets. I wanted to talk about a handful of things here before we get into this season, kind of on things that are on my mind here. The Houston Rockets most likely are going to have Eric Gordon. My phone's dying. Oh no. The Houston Rockets are most likely going to have Eric Gordon in the starting lineup. I kind of like the move, not necessarily for development, but what it does make me realize is the Houston Rockets need a solution at small forward. And the good news is they're not in a rush. There's no particular rush. There isn't any reason to be, chasing, trades or free agents or start speculating free agents. Right now is a time for development and progression. And that means Jae'Sean Tate and KJ Martin Jr., those two players are going to need to play. The issue is the current state of the Houston Rockets roster and Steven Silas. They need the veterans in there, not only to just kind of be the glue, but they also need them in there for several other reasons. Like, particularly if you're trying to get rid of Eric Gordon and you're trying to get rid of Daniel House Jr., you're trying to get rid of John Wall, you need to get the value up. And Eric Gordon's value is probably the lowest it has ever been in his entire career. I mean, he will come out on the Rockets tomorrow and drop 20 points. Like, there is, if he plays, which obviously he will, there's always injury concerns with Eric Gordon. That's a whole nother issue. I guarantee you he scores 20 points tomorrow. A lot of you might be watching this after the game. He will score 20 points. He is a scorer. He is a walking bucket. He can play make. He can facilitate a little bit, and he can hold his own on defense. And I love Eric Gordon, but you guys kind of probably see the issue I'm getting at. If Eric Gordon is so talented, he's going to need to play. Like, you need to play your talented guy. So the issue is we need Eric Gordon traded, we need John Wall traded, and we need Daniel House Jr. traded. But in order to get all three of their value minus John Wall, so two of their value, Daniel House Jr. and Eric Gordon, they need to play, bro. So the reason the reason I pair John Wall into that conversation is because Daniel House Jr. right now, the way he's playing, the way the last 2 years of his career have gone, he will not be available for a trade. Like, no team right now, no contending team, no rebuilding team is saying we need to go get Daniel House Jr. What it's more likely going to be is Daniel House Jr. included in a trade package. The issue, though, Daniel House has been playing so bad, so he needs to be efficient this next season. Coming off the bench, his stats aren't going to be eye-popping necessarily, but he needs to have a couple of good games. He needs to shoot the ball well and needs to hold his own on defense so that he doesn't become, I don't want to use the word untradeable, but it kind of is like that. We have Daniel House Jr. for one final year right now, and if he isn't showing contending teams, hey, you need a guy like me, they're not going to make the trade, and that puts the Rockets in a difficult position because he's still going to get minutes. He's still going to play. So that's where we circle back to KJ Martin Jr., we circle back to Jae'Sean Tate. If you still have guys like Eric Gordon on the roster and you still have guys like Daniel House Jr. on the roster, which I'm not trying to complain about, all I'm saying is the Rockets need a solution at small forward after this season, and we need to see if Jae'Sean Tate and KJ Martin Jr. are capable of that. Steven Silas throwing Jae'Sean Tate on the bench, saying he looks more comfortable there, he's able to help run the offense. It's true, but it still gives me a lot of concern. So these aren't, like I said, these aren't really things that we need to be tweaking out about. These aren't things to bug about, but it's something to keep in mind. Don't get upset at Eric Gordon playing. Don't get upset at Daniel House Jr. playing, because we need them to play so we can unload them off the team. Thankfully, we do have a good group of veterans. We got Daniel Theis, we got DJ Augustin, we got a fair amount of veteran players who are going to help guide these younger guys. So worst case scenario, let's just say worst case scenario, let's say Eric Gordon, Daniel House Jr., they remain on the roster the entire season. Eric Gordon starts like 60 games at small forward. KJ Martin Jr. averages 15 minutes. Jae'Sean Tate averages, 23, 24. Is not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. So that's really it for today. I want to hear your guys' opinion on the starting 3 spot, because this is something we weren't really concerned about this in the offseason. We weren't really concerned about this last season because we had guys like Jae'Sean Tate and KJ Martin Jr. I just want to make sure that they continue to play so that they can continue to develop, because I want a good, reliable starting small forward on this Houston Rocket team. That's it for today, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed it. Hit the sub button. I'll see you guys later.